What's going on, everyone? I'm here with motherfucking Taylor Atwood in the building. The champ. The champ is here. We're gonna go through some questions, just have a nice little conversation. I have a lot of your guys' questions um, written down. First off, Taylor, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good, man. Thank you for having me on, reaching out, keeping it in the family.
Yep, yep.
But I'm doing good.
I appreciate you coming on. I had your name written down way back. Like you were one of the people I wanted to interview, but it's just like there wasn't really a lot going on, and then COVID happened, and I was like, oh my god. So let's talk about that since we're on it. When you first got locked down, um, what was your mentality towards the situation? Were you kind of worried and scared about it? I'm not gonna lie, I was like. I literally lost, I want to say, like 30% of my lifters just overnight because they couldn't train. Nobody had training
Mhm.
equipment. Now everybody's got equipment. It's crazy. It's actually been pretty cool to see what people have done to get equipment so they can train, which shows like who's dedicated and whatnot. But I was tripping out in the beginning. So like, what happened with you? What was your work situation, training situation, all that?
Yeah, it's a great question because I'm very lucky. I have a full-time job at a corporation, so we were able to work remote, and we were already like what you call quote unquote digital. So we were using something called WebEx. Some may use Zoom, whatever it is. We were actually able to go business as usual. So my actual job wasn't affected, which I was very grateful for. Training, however, was affected, but not entirely. I was still able to lift weights. One of my friends had a weight set I was able to use. So I was still able to train during like quote unquote quarantine when everything. So I live in New York, everything was shut
Yeah.
down, and it was actually prolonged versus some other states like Texas or Florida, where some of the things opened up a lot sooner. So I, once we opened up, we only were able to open up at certain capacity, and that was back in like July, August timeframe. And I only had like an hour and a half to 2 hours because we had to sign up for time slots in the gym. I only had an hour and a half to 2 hours to train. So I couldn't go over that
Yeah.
because we had all the slots were filled and we were only supposed to be at a certain capacity. So I respected the gym owner. Said, "All right, let's get it done," and I did. So I did that for like 2 months, almost 3 months, and then we kind of opened up to full capacity for the last, I want to say, month and a half to almost 2 months. So leading into the competition, we were able to get 8 weeks at least of good training in where I wasn't rushed. So that was good. But in terms of like my mentality over the quarantine itself, like I was actually talking. I was just on Barbend podcast, and what I mentioned on there was I actually fell back in love with powerlifting, and not that I didn't love it before, but now like since everything was shut down, I wasn't actually training for anything. I was just back to training, and I didn't have any pressure or I didn't go into each session thinking, damn, I hope I don't get hurt or something doesn't go wrong. I have to stay on my nutrition and blah, 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 all these different factors. There was just that thing lifted off my shoulders. So I wasn't actually training for a competition until about 12 weeks ago into the last week's competition. So it was like a weight lifted off. I was fine. I was good.
Do you
So it
feel
was actually for me good. It was good.
do you feel like having that little time where it's almost like you're so used to training. We were like going hard. It was like worlds, nationals. I don't remember. Do you do every Arnold? Do you skip that sometimes?
Yeah, I skipped Arnold sometimes.
Yeah, because I remember. I think you did 2018. It might have been. I don't remember. It was 2018 or
Yeah,
2017.
it was 2015 and 2018.
And then because the schedule is it's honestly worlds to nationals, even like coaching, it's like kind of burns you out because it's like it's not that much time. I know June, July, August, September, October, it's 3 months. So you're like in prep, you do worlds, and worlds is like it's worlds, right? So obviously you're
Yeah.
gonna travel far, you're gonna try to do your best. and it's we will talk about worlds in a minute, but then right after that it's like, okay, cool, you get like a week, and then you got to start getting ready, maybe 2 weeks, and you got to start getting ready for nationals. And I definitely feel that pressure too, especially like because like with the team I want to win like really really bad. And but at the same time, I've learned to through this situation, I've learned to like I will think about like, man, we would have had nationals this year, we would have had all these things. And now that we don't have that, it's just like I started to dissect the pressure more. Like, what is the pressure from? You know what I mean? We're gonna prepare. All I'm doing is preparing people and making sure that we handle it on the day. Obviously, there are those times when I got like three guys going for first place on the third pole, so you got to predict everybody's third pole and then think what your guy could hit. So that. But we kind of live for that, right? Like as coaches, you want to be, that's what I live for. I like going into those like tough situations where it could be anybody, and then you end up pulling it out, right? Um, so having this time to kind of like sit back and why do I feel this pressure and dissect that pressure and then appreciate it more and understand why am I feeling this pressure? Like what are we trying to accomplish at nationals? And then just not having it, you like appreciate it more. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Um, I don't know. Do you miss the nationals this time around, or are you kind of like, oh, I'm glad I didn't have to travel and go through it?
Well, so not bragging or anything. Again, just stating facts. I'm a 6-time
Yeah,
national champion. So for me, it was kind of shitty. I wanted 7,
yeah,
and given that all the newcomers that are kind of nipping at my heels a little bit, Michael Ca, Austin Perkins, they like I really wanted to see where they were going to come in at because I love competition. That's why I'm doing powerlifting,
I was
right?
just gonna
So
ask you, do you enjoy that? Do you enjoy the stress of like, all right, these guys are gonna try to come get me, and let's see what they can do.
yeah, yeah. So before they started to increase their totals, I was really battling it out with Russ in terms
Mm-hmm.
of the best
Yeah,
overall. Like it wasn't just about okay, he's in 83s, I'm in 74s. No, it's like who's going to be the best pound for pound.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So like any way I could look at the competition, that's how I was doing it because there wasn't like 2 years ago, even a year ago, there was really no competition in 74 for me. So I knew I would go into nationals and win. However, I was always curious. Let's see what Russ is going to do
Did
in
you compete
terms
at
of
2014?
total. Yeah,
That was the year before I
in
was
Aurora.
powerlifting USPA. I didn't even know about USAPL back then. That was so
Yeah,
you've won every single one. That's crazy. I remember the
yeah,
first
yeah,
time I met you was at 2015 with DeNovo. I mean, that's
yeah.
where I met LS.
At the Arnold.
Uh,
That was the Arnold. I thought.
that might have been the first time I really interacted with you. But you were at. I met Ben. Dude, Ben talked to me for 3.5 hours on the Scranton.
Oh, Scranton.
Yeah.
Yes.
I
Yeah,
was like,
yeah,
I was like, I don't know this guy, but he's really smart. This guy
yeah.
talks a lot, but he's cool. But he was super cool, and um, it was weird because after talking to me for that long, I didn't even know if he liked me. I was just listening. You know how Ben is? Like he's just kind of he's got like no emotion. He just
Yeah,
like
he's got a great heart though.
yeah,
So
he's a good guy, and we related because back then I was dealing with back issues and he had back issues, so we were like talking about that, and
I
that
was
was
dealing with back issues then
there
too.
you go, man. There you go. So, if you guys don't know, I've known Taylor a really long time. Before a lot of you guys, like literally, I think about the team and like the guys I work with. I'm like, half these guys even powerlift back then. You know what I mean? They seriously, they didn't even powerlift. Like it was not this big on social media. It was like way, way, way less than what it was, and I remember 2016 Worlds was super dope. Oh my God, I remember you at 2016 Worlds, and I think you got second, but I
Clean.
don't remember what happened on your pole. Did you? I don't know if you. What ended up happening that time?
Dude, I was so upset. So long story short, I was pulling 290 and there was a Belarusian in my Belarus.
Yeah.
There was a Belarusian in my weight class, and he was like the 2-time or 3-time reigning champ, and no one could beat him. And I'm the dark horse because
Yeah.
in 2015 in Scranton, I injured my back. And I think I totaled at like 695. And so leading into the competition, I was like number 6 or something on the depth chart in terms of placing. So I was the dark horse. No one knew, but Jason and I knew that like we're we're like battling it out with the Belarusian, and we can potentially beat him if we just go 9 for 9. Well, I put on 290. Well, uh, Susie and Matt Gary put on 290 for my third attempt on deadlift, and I absolutely destroy it. However, I had what was quote unquote a technicality, and they red lighted me for soft lockout. So it looked like my shoulders weren't all the way back, and my right knee wasn't fully locked. So I went 8 for 9, and that was supposed to give me the win, um, for the projected win at least. But it got red lighted.
I remember that day, man, because there weren't a lot of us back there, and I just remember, just like me seeing all there's like 10 of us from our country. And you want everybody to do well. I believe Eli did really good at that meet, and I just remember you
Yeah,
got a
Eli
tough
won.
loss. Yeah, I remember. I remember I went up to Ben. I was like, "Did your guy win?" He's like, "Yeah." Did your guy win? I was like, "Yeah." It was
Yeah,
super cool,
fucking.
man. But then
I was
after
so
that,
upset.
but do you feel like that moment kind of just made you say like, "All right, I'm never losing here again. I'm never gonna deal with like, I'm never gonna let that happen to me." Did that set you up, or
Yeah,
were you just kind of like, "Fuck it,
yeah,
back to the
hell
drawing
yeah,
board"?
dude. I was so upset, but what gave me confidence after the fact was the Belarusian. Once I left Scranton, we got on the airplane. The Belarusian was on the airplane as well, and he didn't speak a lick of English. Like you couldn't understand a goddamn word he was saying. But what I do remember him saying was, "You champion." He pointed at me and said, "You champion,"
That means a
because
lot,
he
dude.
and you know what? I was like, he knew I should have won, but I didn't, and I respected him so much after that. Like
Um,
it was just a technical. It wasn't because I wasn't strong enough. It was because of technicality. So I respected him a lot
there are a
after
lot
that.
of Russian fighters that are like that. Like I just watched one this last weekend where he got the decision, but he on the mic he was like, "I didn't win that. Like I got to give respect to my opponent. Like he won that." So they grow up with very good morals. I mean, depending on where, because I know they had issues with
Yeah.
like drugs and stuff, but you could argue that that was the country trying to influence them. But that's awesome when a competitor can come up to you and be like, "Hey man, like I know you would have got me or whatever," and it probably just gave you just all the confidence and because you came in like you said you came in the dark horse and you could have won. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you could have literally won. Just came down to a technicality. So, you have it in you, and it kind of like it gives you that little sour taste in your mouth to keep you honest, right? To keep you kind of fighting
Oh
for more.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh
So,
yeah.
I wanted to talk to you about your just sports background. I know you told me briefly that you played football, but if you could just talk about like, did you play football? What position did you play? Where was it at? And then, do you feel that you going through, your time playing like an actual sport has helped you and empower and given you the tools to kind of come into powerlifting and be successful?
Yeah, so let's give respect where respect is due. Powerlifters, it is a true sport. It's
Hmm.
it's not as athletic. Like you don't need to be as
Yeah.
athletic in certain respects, but
I
it's
meant
still a
like
sport.
quotations over that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I played football my entire life, meaning like since age 4. I'm 32. I'm 32 now, and like it was being able to be in football, but I also played basketball, I
Hmm.
played baseball, I played hockey, track. I played every sport you could think of. And I was naturally gifted. I was a naturally gifted athlete, meaning I could transition into any sport and I was good. So I did have that going for me. Now I would say what kept me like why I'm so competitive today is because of my younger cousins, older cousins now. But when we were younger, I had all boy cousins, and I was over their house every week, and I they were like 3, 4 years older than me, so I constantly just felt like I had to keep up with them, and that like we would play again every sport, wiffle ball, kickball, whatever it was, tag. uh, I was always just trying to keep up with them, so when I played someone my age, I was running circles around them. So I found I was actually better at basketball than I was football at the time, and I loved basketball. Allen Iverson was my favorite basketball player. Like I mimicked him in every aspect. I even had
I
cornrows
remember
for
I remember watching them at the Olympics. Yeah.
so um, yeah, I think that just being able to have that great base in terms of being able to play in every sport and get a feel and sense of how to use your body, um, what muscles you need to use, how to be a functional athlete versus just a strength athlete. Because I don't think people understand that concept. Like you look at a football player and they may not be able to lift as much as a power lifter, but if you put them in the jungle, they will destroy anything. You
Yeah.
put a power lifter in the jungle, and they'll just be able to lift trees.
Mhm.
So functional strength versus actual strength, they're two completely different things. So me being able to use that functional strength in football, in basketball, and other sports, I think had tremendous carryover into powerlifting. And I also had a very good base under me because I had very good strength and conditioning coaches throughout the year. And I would say probably top two strength and conditioning coaches in Florida that were training NFL athletes, NBA athletes, I was able to train with. So being exposed to that type of knowledge, that type of competitiveness, and seeing what these guys were able to do and kind of see the strength and conditioning and where they were taking this kind of program, I thought was really interesting. And I just stumbled upon powerlifting and I got in with the right group at the right time that were kind of doing some things differently in the powerlifting realm.
So this was so that ties into how you got into powerlifting. So you were through regular sport you discovered powerlifting, or was it just people
Uh,
that you had met in there? Or
no, so I lived in Rochester, Minnesota back in 20 when did I move there? 2012, August of 2012. And Minnesota actually has a great powerlifting like just I don't know, they have a great powerlifting community. So I was at the gym one day, and some guy was body getting ready for a bodybuilding show, and he looked phenomenal. Natural bodybuilder though. He was really small, but he was lean as fuck and was ripped. So I walk up to him, and I'm an extrovert, so I walk up to him like, "Hey man, like you're in great shape. What are you doing?" And he kind of just gave me a background as to who he was, what he's doing, getting ready for a show, so on and so forth. I was like, naturally, I was like, well, do you have a coach? And he's like, yeah, I have a coach. And he's like, I was like, who is he? He's like, Jason from the Strength Guys. And I was
mm,
like, oh, okay. Um, and then, so that was just it. And then I saw him maybe a few days later, and I was throwing up 365 for a couple of reps on the bench. And he comes over to me and says, hey, like, holy shit, I didn't realize you were that strong. He's like, are you taking any like drugs or anything? And I was, and I was like, no, no. I was like, you're a natural bodybuilder. I was like, I'm just naturally strong. I have again this football background, and I've been blessed with strength. But I was like, I'm thinking about like doing something competitive because I still have this. I just got finished with the CFL, Canadian football, and he was like, "Well, have you ever tried powerlifting?" And I'm like, "The fuck is powerlifting?"
mm.
And so he kind of just gave me a rundown as to what it was. I researched it that night. Little did I know I was going to be. So I signed up for my first meet, And little did I know, like the USAPL was apparently the gold standard in terms of powerlifting because they drug tested. I didn't know that at the time. But once I started talking to people about, hey, I'm thinking about doing this powerlifting thing. What do you think? And they're like, oh, you're going in the USAPL? And I was like, yeah. They're like, I don't know. They're really strict in terms of depth and they drug test. And I'm like, perfect. Sign me up. Because I just did. So one, I think I'll never compete equipped because, and nothing against equipped lifting, but because I just don't see the necessity of having to lift that much weight assisted. If you can't do it naturally, why not do it just naturally? So that's one. And then two, the reason why I've never taken drugs is because I've never seen the cost benefit analysis to outweigh itself in terms of the downside. So, like, I've seen so many people in the bodybuilding realm who are now either dead or they're like just hating life and they're in a wheelchair. And I just never wanted that. And I've seen numerous people do that. So I'm like, screw that. It just doesn't make sense. But yeah, that's kind of how I even came about powerlifting was someone in Rochester, Minnesota said, hey, have you ever heard of it? Why don't you, I think you'd be good. Go try it out.
That answered some questions coming up because in the Q&A people were asking what did you think about equip lifting, and you just answered it right there, and I agree, man. It's like I understand it's supposedly it's more technical and it's just a lot more variables to deal with, but like lifting super heavy weight, like I don't enjoy lift squatting 750. I don't. I'm beyond it. I really don't. Um, but I do it because I can, and I mean I don't know if I can now. I'm down some pounds, but it's just like you know I couldn't imagine. Let me just load up 900. You know what I mean, and just like try to do that. You know what I mean? So
Right.
yeah, I mean, you could argue someone that could do that is like tougher, but like I said, like if playing football and running full speed into someone and hitting them with your face is like, in my opinion, that's pretty tough. Um, but I
I
mean
think
it,
so.
and then the next step after that is like literal fighting. But I'm not. I don't want to get punched in the face. I don't know about you, but I got a pointy nose. I got this pointy nose, and like if I get hit,
Yeah,
yeah,
I don't
we
know.
got like similar that point. You get hit right there. It's not a good feeling. But that was good, man. Me, it was just I'll never forget. I was playing football and at Pierce College over here. My strength and conditioning coach, my second year was like, "Hey Joe, instead of killing yourself on the bench the first day, we're gonna have one day where you do sets of 6, and we're gonna have another day where you do sets of 4." And I was like, "This is like 2008," and I'm like, "There's
Right.
no way." I was like, "There's no way this is gonna work." 2009 maybe. And then I started getting stronger and I was less beat up. And I was like, this is insane. This guy's crazy. We did some crazy conditioning stuff. Like, I remember we used to carry tires 100 yards. Like, you put your hands in it and walk 100 yards, come back. And we did, like, kind of just stuff to build character. But yeah, for strength and conditioning, like, I never felt like the weights we were doing were killing me. Whereas, like, in high school, we would just die. Like, it was just
Mhm.
balls to the wall and leave everything out there. So just having and I started to realize I don't know if you felt this too. I went through this. It was a hard transition for me to stop playing football. I actually got a scholarship to some is a NAIA school in the Midwest in
I
Kansas.
played at NAIA.
Yeah, so I feel you, man. So I was like, I was out there and I was like, I really enjoy lifting, and I enjoy full team and games, but all the film and just everything else and conditioning and the commitment of football is insane. It's like 5 hours a day minimum. Plus, let's say I remember we had our D coordinator. I didn't research it, but supposedly he played for the Cowboys, corner and running back, and then I remember he left us and he went to go coach at Berkeley. So he must have been the real deal. But he was very professional. His name is Coach Phillips, tall white dude. He was super shredded, in shape. He was very tough, and he was like our playbook was like this. It was like that big, and I was a
Jesus.
linebacker, so it was like, bro, I'm about to learn. I gotta learn everything. So, but I'm very thankful for that time in football because I literally, when it was over, I felt like I could do anything I wanted in the world. I was like, I went through all this adversity, like you know what I mean. So, I don't know if you. I don't know if you felt that, but I mean, you're a six-time national champion. How many times have you won worlds?
Twice.
twice, and
Back to back.
back to back, and you know, your mentality and your ability to, I cannot say this enough, and I've said this many times, that the value of a game day competitor, right? I know you worked with Matt Gary. I know you know what
Hmm.
it's like to go out there and he's gonna, like, sometimes you don't even know what he puts on the bar, and you go out there and to just execute when the pressure is on. You have like a million people biting at your heels, and you just do your thing, and nothing affects you. No social media, not what they're doing, none of that. And you just go out, you cut weight, you execute on the platform. The value of someone that can get it done where it counts cannot be understated. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
I just can't, I can't stress that enough. Like, I literally don't care about gym lifts. It's important, you know, it's important to know where you're at, and you can, from a coaching perspective, you know, to know the relation between what your lifter's doing in the gym and how that translates over to the platform. But if somebody pulls, you know, something and it's like the technique is weird, or like Amanda, for example, I love Amanda, but she's very, very strong in that she could gym lift some weight. She could gym lift
Hmm.
some weight, like she could just muscle it up. But we gotta hit it to comp standard. You gotta hit depth, and her depth when it gets to the third, it's like close. You know what I mean? You know, bench, your butt's got to stay down. On deadlift, you have to lock out and you have to hold it there, and you got to wait. You know what I mean? So IPF standard is completely different than, you know, stuff that you're gonna do in the gym, and I don't think, and it's messed up because a lot of people, they won't experience that. You know what I mean? They're not gonna experience what it's like um, to go to Worlds and just like, wow, everyone in my flight is not from my country. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, can you talk about that a little bit? Like, how did you feel your first Worlds, and is Worlds a prestigious competition to you?
So I think that's a good question. So my mindset going into Worlds initially in 2016 was this is like the best of the best, you know? Like I'm going against Belarus. He's the world champion, not national, world. So like the first one in 2016, yeah, I was like, man, this is pretty prestigious. Then I lost, and I'm like, fuck. All right. So then leading into 2017, uh, I think the same thing. I'm like, oh yeah, like world again, prestigious, so on and so forth. But um, I lost again. So now I'm like, damn. Uh, I like I'm running the national scene, but I can't win this world competition. And I'm like, what's like? Do I even want to continue this? So I still held worlds at a high standard leading into 2018 as well. And then when I started to really surpass the competition, like the world competition just kind of went downhill. There's not a lot. I wouldn't say, I would say the US now kind of runs 74s for competition. So for me, I think nationals is the kind of golden ticket and what I hold more prestigious at this point. Until someone from a world level again gets to the U.S. standard. Um, I just right now I don't hold worlds at that high standard that I hold nationals to anymore.
Do you pull 775 in the gym with straps and think that you're gonna pull 800 on the platform?
No, no, come on, like oh my god. So the amount of comments I got, one saying it's
I knew
sumo.
your answer, by the way. I knew your answer, by the
Yeah.
way. I just gotta do it for them.
One, it's sumo. Two, it's straps. And three, it's pound plates. Four, it's on a Texas power bar. So kind of that order too. All that plays into account when it comes to a gym lift or pulling something stupid.
Hmm.
So I pulled 320, which is 705 in competition on a Sunday. And then I came into the gym, hit the 770 on like a Wednesday or a Thursday. So what most people don't know is one, you're typically still peaked after a meet. Once you do your meet, that's not the end of the peak. Like you still have a couple days after your meet that you can potentially still be at peak form. So you're still probably the strongest that you'll ever be for the year. So for me, I kind of knew that going in, and I wasn't expecting to even pull 770. I like there's very rare occasions where I surprise myself. The 770, I surprised the hell out of myself. Um, so I get into the gym, I pull 675, knowing it's on a Texas Power Bar, so it does have some more whip. I know it's on pound plates, but I pull 675 and it absolutely flies. I'm like, holy shit, fuck it, let's go. So I throw on a 25 on each side, and we go 725, and 725 moves, and I'm like, and my dad's there. My dad's there hyping me up. He's my hype man, and he's like, "Dude, throw 8 plates on."
All right, sure
And I'm
thing.
like, you know what? All right. So I throw on 8 plates, and the way I was loading the plates was I had a 2.5 pound plate to roll the weight on, so that I could put each plate on easily because I didn't have a deadlift jack. So I was like, "Fuck it, I'm throwing a 2.5 on too."
Make it flat.
just
Zero at the
just
end.
throw on
Yeah.
just throw a 2.5 on. So that's why it was 770. Um, and when I pulled it, it moved so well. I probably could have like, and I honestly wasn't expecting it to move that well. I thought it would be a grinder, and it moved at like RPE 8. So, do I think I can pull that on the platform? Hell no. Again, like I said, I had 705 on Sunday. I did the 770 in the gym. I was probably around 166, so I was 3 pounds heavier.
Mhm.
But nonetheless, it was on pound plates. It was on the Texas Power Bar, and I was using straps. Um, in competition, unless I'm trying to pull for the win, I probably would never even
Yeah.
attempt that. One, and then two, there truly is a difference. But and if you don't think this, you're an idiot. There's a difference between competition lift and using an actual stiff bar. So it's either an Ohio Power Bar or an Alico bar, and kilogram plates, calibrated plates. So I know those pound plates when I pulled the 770 were not calibrated. There's oscillation in the bar, which makes it easier, and the straps make it easier. So do I think I could have pulled more on Sunday than 705? Fuck yeah.
Mhm.
I probably could have pulled
I agree.
probably 725. I don't know, but do I think I could have pulled 8? No. Like that's you're naive to think that a gym lift equates to a competition lift.
I really appreciate your answer, and I know that I can ask you things like that, and you're gonna answer how I feel. So it's like great having people hear it come from you as well, because I'm not a six-time as a lifter. I'm not a six-time national champion, but yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people, I know that King of the Lift's job is to make hype and just say outlandish things. And I've sent him audio before, like, dog, Ryan, you're a good guy, and I know you're just doing your little media thing, but I hate it because I know it's not you, and I know you're just taking like gym lifts and trying to amplify it, right? When even same thing like with kids when they're like super young and they're pulling like 700 pounds on a deadlift bar, and it's just like there's a reason that doesn't happen in IPF meets. You
Yes.
know what I mean? Like it's just so it just goes to show when people leave their comments or whatever that they don't have the foresight, and that's why there's people that are in higher positions than others because how many guys do you know? They hit something in the gym and then they try to do it in the meet and they're like bomb out, or they have a heavy last warm up. You know what I mean? Because they don't account for these things. Um, and I feel like it's always going to be that way. Like as much as we say it, people are just not going to get it. So that's why you just kind of become numb to comments. Like you just see things. I'm like, oh, these people just don't know better. Even when people try to create competition between lifters, it's like this, like someone like you or myself or Matt or even Ben. Like you can see someone in the gym, and you can see someone's. You could literally go look at their past meets, and it will tell you if they can translate what they do in the gym, on the platform. They have a bunch of red everywhere. That means they're super inconsistent. They got some work to do. And then there's other people that kind of like if you always train on kilos and you always train on Alico, you're gonna have a lot more accurate representation of what you're gonna actually do, on the day. Now you
Hmm.
kind of already answered this, but I would assume your walk around weight is what, 166, 168, something like that.
166 to
Yeah,
167.
yeah. Well, so that's a very easy cut for you. Um, how did you? So you dealt with an injury, I believe. Were you hurt coming into nationals?
Last year, yeah.
And then, so what was that injury? And then, as 2020 panned out with lockdowns and everything, was there ever an instance where you were prepping for a meet and then it got canceled and you had to like restructure everything for a different date? So we'll go back to the injury and then yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So injury leading into 2019 nationals, we were having the prep of our lives.
Hmm.
It was absolutely just going fantastic, and I was just coming off of a world's performance hitting 790 and a half, which blew everyone's
Yeah,
mind.
I was there.
Because that Russ got his first
I
one.
know, man. I love
Um,
Sweden. It was a good thing for like a
yeah,
lot of us.
Sweden was great.
Yeah.
So I'm coming off a world class performance of the 790 and a half, knocking on the door of 800. And the 790 and a half, I had a lot left in the tank
Yep.
on squat and deadlift. So we were very, very confident leading into nationals that we could probably break the 800 barrier. So we were, again, having the prep of our lives. And I want to say 3.5 weeks to 4 weeks out, um, I had this just weird nagging. No, I would say about 2.5 to 3 weeks out. This weird groin pain,
Hmm.
and it didn't necessarily hurt um, on deadlift, but it really hurt on squat. So we had to taper early on squat and deadlift. Not so much deadlift, but more on squat. But we tapered very early, and it was very unfortunate because we were aiming for like a 290 squat.
Hmm.
Uh, I hit 285, but it like I re-injured myself. So what I had was
In the
something
gym or
called
in the meet?
pubalgia in the gym,
Okay.
but re-injured myself at the meet. So I had something called pubalgia, which is essentially a sports hernia. It wasn't diagnosed. I didn't go for an MRI, but all the physical therapists that I was seeing said all the signs led to pubalgia. So what essentially it is, it's a hernia um, where intestines are coming through your intestinal wall. So it hurt like a bitch,
Hmm.
and I didn't know at the time. I was just trying to train through it because I was like, "Fuck this!" If I like get an MRI or a physical therapist is like, "You got to shut it down." I'm like, "I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
I'm going to
That
nationals.
that
Like I
football
gotta
that
defend.
football mentality.
I gotta defend my title." Um, so still hitting the 285 squat was I felt fine, but I'm in the back room. I don't know if you saw it, but I'm thinking I pulled my groin, uh, but I'm in the back room just loading up on liniment, horse liniment, essentially tiger balm, and ice a heating pad, and I had a shit ton of Tylenol, so I couldn't really feel a lot, but I could feel it still,
Hmm.
even through all that. So I I, I wasn't 100% leading into nationals, but I don't want to make it an excuse because I still won, and I won handedly, regardless of what Michael was able to do in subtotal. It doesn't matter because the full meet is what matters.
Yep.
So so for me, I was still happy with the outcome. I'm not gonna let I wouldn't have let that been an excuse had I lost. I just would have been like, you know what, this is what happened. I'm looking forward to the next meet, and let bygones be bygones. But I don't think I would have had the Russian mentality of, hey, you won. You're the. I would have been like, nah, this is an asterisk. Like,
I mean I feel you. Hey man, I feel you. Honestly, that is here's the thing, right? Um Shay's strong, right? I think little Austin Perkins, he's so young and he's like
yeah,
he seems
they're
he seems
both of them,
he
man.
seems like he has the game day part, right? He has that mentality. I don't know if he played football. He reminds me of like a little cornerback or running back.
Yeah,
Um really nice kid, like very well spoken and stuff. And with Shay, he's strong. The thing is, like, it takes time for not everybody's different, right? I don't know if it's just like a series of unfortunate circumstances. I'm sure inexperience plays a role, but for him to have the subtotal that he had, and then for whatever happened to happen on deadlift, it's unfortunate, right? But then to happen something again happened to him at the Arnold, which I think totally could have been avoided, and it's just unfortunate.
yeah,
I do think that he is strong, but that mental part or whatever comes with experience, mentality, whatever that it takes to show up and, like I said, six-time national champion, two-time world champion, to do that stuff. That's why you can't really predict things from the gym. You can't really say, even if you train on the right equipment, it's just different. Like, I don't know, for some people it's easier than others, and I just did a video on this on like whether or not you can give someone this. But there are just lifters. John Hack, Jesse Norris, Russ has it as well. Where like when it is time to lift and perform, Mikey Davis does this really really good. Mikey went through some crazy shit last weight cut, and he made weight like how you have to make weight and then you have like 90 minutes. You have like a to the last
yeah,
you have like to the
yeah.
last second, right? He barely makes it, freaking recomps everything, and then just like, I'm good, coach. What do we got? What we got next? And he just like hit all his thirds, and I was like, you need to pull 804 and hope Ashton misses to get second. And he was like, just put it on, and he got it. And I was like, this kid is a baller. You know what I mean? There's something about that, and it's I asked myself. I feel like I can groom people in that direction, but to truly embed it into your being, you have to have been a competitor at a high level in something a lot over time. I feel like, you know what I mean?
hmm
Um,
hmm
I'm gonna use Tom Brady as an example. They talk about Tom Brady, and like, yes, he is obviously he's like God. Basically, he's insane. When it comes to throwing the ball, he's incredible. He has a very good IQ. And if you want to rate him like athleticism, like him versus like Cam Newton, for example, obviously Cam Newton's more athletic, right? But Tom Brady has the ability, this mental ability, to take everyone around him and elevate them and get them all on the same page and kind of just like, you can't put a price on his athletic ability alone because he has this X factor, which I feel, if I were to relate it to powerlifting, it's aside from the X's and O's, it's aside from stats. It's just like this ability to, when you got 2 minutes on the clock, you have the ball and you are down by one touchdown and you complete every play and you get it in. You know what I mean? And to do that more than anybody else, you got to it's just something in your head that's different. And I don't necessarily know if you can teach that to people. Maybe over time you can kind of get somebody there. But who knows? Maybe I would like to think that if Shea keeps trying, he will have those 9 for 9 days, and then you guys can really battle. Austin, I feel mentally is already there. I feel like he does really good. When it comes time to show up, he can execute. I know he's competed at Worlds. He knows what it is. I believe Equip Lifting has taught him discipline, and just
hmm
having mentors and whatnot. So that's why I said, like, you're not only, Taylor, are you you compete well and you have good training and you taper, peak, and all that, but your mentality to go to have an injury and say, I'm still going to show up and I'm still going to compete and I'm going to do my best given what I have to defend my throne. In my opinion, you can't really put a price on that, and I don't even know. Like I said, I still don't know if I can coach that to this day. I feel like you could push people in that direction, but it's like you can keep putting someone in that environment, but if it's within them, it's gonna come out or it's not. You know what I mean? There's like two kind of competitors, and you're either gonna rise to that occasion or you're gonna A lot of guys would bail out in your situation, be like, you know what, man, I did, I had to peak early. I'm not gonna give it 100%. I'm not gonna do it. Did you PR any lifts at that meet?
No.
And you still showed up and you still competed. I can tell you for a fact right now. I've had so many people tell me they won't compete unless they're gonna hit a PR. You know what I mean? You should PR, but things happen. You made it this far. The title's
Yeah.
right there. The belt is right there. You gotta do it. So, um, I mean that just, in my opinion, that amplifies your performance even more to just show up and get it done with all these young guys on your toes. Shout out to them. They're working hard, and I think that when when a weight class has a Taylor or a Russ, or I mean, I think Ashton is the 105. He's like really up there in 105s. Keiko's doing really good. You have Ray Williams. Eventually, there's gonna be more lifters that are gonna try to hopefully create some competition there and show up and just kind of make it a little bit more interesting. Regardless of whether your competitors like you or not. I guarantee you they do respect you and they see you as an inspiration because you're showing them what is possible. Like if Taylor can do it, then maybe I can, be like him. Maybe I can. All the 74s watching this right now, like I don't know if you know how much you inspire them. You know what I mean? And you're just doing your thing. You're just, being a good guy and competing, and showing them that hey, it is possible to hit these numbers at 74. Um, so I think that's
So there's actually it's called the Roger Bannister effect. It's the guy that was the first 4 minute miler to break the 4 minute mile mark, and once he broke the 4 minute mile mark,
everybody started doing it.
everyone started
Dude, that's
doing it.
crazy. Yeah.
And like myself, Russ, we're pushing boundaries that no one thought could be pushed. So we're starting to see the 83s really be
Mhm.
competitive. We're starting to see the 74s be really competitive, and I think we're at the forefront. And again, this isn't me bragging.
It's
This is
not.
me
You're just saying
stating
what it
fact.
is. Yeah.
We're pushing once we're able to kind of because no one who would have thought a 74 was going to hit 800 total.
If I came up to you in 2016 after you pulled 290, you'd be like, "Hey man, one day you're gonna pull 220 like nothing, bro." You would have been like, "I don't see how. How am I gonna do that?" You know
Dude,
what I mean?
30 kilograms.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
So like it's just having the mentality of I think not having a limiting factor, a limiting mentality, having the growth mentality. There's so much research behind a growth mentality, growth mindset, um, and not being limited in terms of don't be set on a number. Like have a goal, and then once you hit that goal, have another goal, and then once you hit that goal, have another goal. It's always progression, linear. I'm always thinking linearly. Whether it happens that way or not is another question. But I'm always working towards the next thing. It's like I'm never, and it's a blessing and a curse, but I'm never satisfied. As cliche as that sounds, I after coming out hitting 812, I told my dad, I'm like, fuck, man, I should have went heavier on squat and deadlift.
I mean, I think you can do 830, and then from there we'll see. Like you compete, you throw up numbers, and then you see where you're at, and you can beat it. In my opinion, based on your last meet, and I'm gonna kind of get into that, and we're gonna get into the stuff that people really want to know, right? I do think you had more on deadlift. I do think you had more on squat. I think bench was right there.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
but you know how bench is. It's like it's that lift where it's a lift it's smaller, so the percentages are gonna be like tinier. So the if you gain 5 kilos on your bench, that's more significant in my opinion than a 5 kilo squat PR, obviously because you're
yeah,
dealing with
yeah.
smaller
Of
numbers.
course.
Um, uh, and so one question that someone did have, we're gonna kind of transition into the Q&A stuff. Um,
Okay.
Really quick, I like what you said about goals. I tell people that all the time. It's good to have numbers in mind, but at the same time, all you can do is get stronger. Like saying you need to hit this number. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But you can work towards it, and eventually that number, you might not even care about that number. That number might just be like an opener now. Um,
Right.
so someone asked, it was kind of absurd to me that people were saying this, because One, this is a local meet. I don't know if there are national level judges. I think there were. I want to say there were.
I hit. So all three of my lists were American
American
records.
records. Okay, so which is dope. It is a little different. Obviously, it's different from having, being in primetime at nationals and, competition and all that stuff. But you still did it, and people were saying that you shouldn't have got your third pole because of the way you put it down.
Mhm.
I feel like you kind of knew that you put it down a little quick too. You did ended up getting it, but it was close. I would say if you would have dropped it any higher, it was just a mental thing. It wasn't like oh, he can't lift that weight. That weight was not even hard, and you held it for like a year.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I was like, man, he got it. Like I'm honestly fine with it. But there are people saying like, do you think that you should have got your pole given the way that you put it down?
So at first I was a little thrown off by it, by the question, because some people said that I also pressed too quickly on my third bench, and I don't know what the fuck they're watching. Deadlifts, however, let's talk about it. So initially, yes, I thought that I let the bar go way too high
Hmm.
and was like, oh my God, what did I just do?
Yeah.
Like I just fucked up my 9 for 9 day, the 812. Like I had already at that point already surpassed 802.
Hmm.
So the third deadlift was a icing on the cake.
Yep.
So for everyone that wants to focus on the third deadlift and whether it should have counted or not, it doesn't fucking matter because I
Yeah.
already hit 802 kilograms. The 10 extra kilograms is just icing. So even if I went 8 for 9, whatever. However, uh, once I looked at the video afterwards and I looked at it in real time and I didn't actually feel myself drop it and I thought I dropped it above my knee, you can see me. It was me slamming the weight into the ground. And I, from what the rule book says, is you have to control the weight to the ground. It doesn't say you can't slam it. I didn't necessarily control it, but I slammed the weight to the ground.
Let me just stop you right there. Like it's just honestly, I kind of feel dumb asking because it's like a little nuance thing. I don't think in nationals you're not gonna do that. You'll probably do your celebration. You'll just put it down. Like you know what I'm saying?
So
Yeah.
so yes, let me talk about that.
Yeah.
So we were we were in Florida. It was this little ballroom. I was the last lifter of the day,
Yeah.
and I'm pulling for 705. That's a PR for me. It's the American record. I pulled 318 in the gym before. That was like my first 700 pull, but now I get to solidify it in the record books in competition. So once I got to the platform, you should have, Joey, like, I thought Nationals was dope. This
It was
little
packed.
ballroom of like 150 people, all the phones were out. Gino on the mic hyping me up. Everyone, my family was there. It was like,
It's just energy, man. Yeah.
dude, the energy, and like I could just see everyone, right? So when I pulled it and Corn came on after Freak on a Leash, like it was just a dope song at the time. So when I pulled it and it felt like RPE, it literally felt like RPE sticks. I pulled it, and when I stood there, I was about to let it go, but everyone literally got up out of their chair and started
Going
jumping up and
crazy.
down. And as soon as I looked out into the crowd and saw that and everyone cheering me on, I soaked it in, dude.
Yeah.
And and I don't expect anyone to feel that. Maybe Russ could feel it, John Hack, but there's very few people that get to experience that.
Yeah.
So unless you have been in a position of that type of energy, you can't relate to me and empathize because you'll unless you've actually experienced it, you can even be in the crowd and it's still not the same as the all the lights are on you, all the looks, everyone is like you're the shining star in the room.
I
So it's completely different.
so if I just think of the times in my powerlifting existence where I felt like the moment, um, it's like these little brief moments in powerlifting where you're like, John pulling his third at the first Worlds against Gibbs, that was nuts. That was absolutely nuts, and it was hard. It was like
Yeah,
a
I
hard
remember
pull.
that.
We
That was
he
nuts.
literally died, and there was like some like it was like a Middle Eastern like media crew in the back, and they were like "Ah," they're going crazy, dude. They picked him up. They had cameras, and it was nuts. And seeing the crowd and like we had worked so hard, and I knew that like John was hurt coming into this meet. Like it was like 2 or 3 weeks out. He was dealing something with his back, and I gave him those 3 weeks, and I was like, "Do this exactly how as I have it, and I promise you everything's gonna work out." And he just did it. Seeing him struggle in that third pole, get it, and just become champion. Um, that was a very just like we did it, man. Like moment. Russ when he got his very first his squat, his very first squat. I remember in Florida. It was in Florida. Something about Florida is lit. I don't know. And the whole everybody was watching, and it was packed, and it was just super nuts. I remember when I was really young watching Dan Green compete at the LA Fit Expo, and I was actually competing at that meet, and I was just like, "This is Dan Green." He's
Yeah,
about to
man.
pull some weight I don't even understand. You know what I mean? And you guys have to understand, like the youngins watching back in 2014, Dan Green was Dan Green was like God.
He was the man. Yeah, he was the man.
Yeah. So um, there's just little there's I can I love what you said about you can't empathize with me because like I said, not I literally said it. There's gonna be so few people that ever get to experience what it's like to lift a weight that nobody has ever lifted before. No one has lifted this weight at this weight class before. It's not been done. You know what I mean? I mean, yeah, obviously if you want to call untested, but given our circumstances, IPF
Yeah,
standard, it's never been done before. I was telling one of my guys, Will, he coaches this dude named Ina. He pulled like I think he pulled like 770 or 781 or something at
damn.
83 in an IPF meet. And I said, Will, you know you coach the highest pull ever by an 83 kg lifter ever like in existence. Like no one has ever done this, and he did it. You know what I mean? I was telling him you gotta just take a moment. You know, like one day Amanda's gonna pull 600 or squat 600. I'm not sure what's gonna come first, and I'm gonna be like, yo, that's nuts. You know what I
That's
mean?
insane.
It's
That's
it's it's
insane.
it's so. I feel like you can relate to a lot of the stuff that I enjoy about lifting because I look forward to Worlds. I look forward to Primetime at Nationals. I look forward to all those things. And you're someone that is you're in it, right? So you get it. You
Yeah,
know what it's like, and you've always like been there. Like whenever I was at a Worlds or in Primetime, you're always there. Like luckily, I've never had I mean, if we have to compete against each other one day, we have to compete against each other one day. But and you know, it's all love. But like, I've never had that. Like, that's never happened. You know, it's always
right.
been I've had a 74 that just like wasn't there yet, or you're just like you're over there doing your thing and Russ is over here doing his thing, or John or
Yeah,
whoever it is. You know, so you've always we kind of share that, and that you're always there, man. And over time, you know, they say masters of the craft. They all find their way to the same road. You know what I mean?
yep.
So we're at Worlds together.
I
I see.
agree.
You know what I'm saying? And it's
Yeah,
just you kind of build a sort of a respect and almost a camaraderie. Like I know what you went through to have to get here. Maybe not specifically every little thing, but I know that you had to battle. You had to work your way up. I seen you working over the years, Taylor. I saw you for over 5 years. I've known you. You know, working up to get to these moments, and it's just. I mean, even Ben, like Ben, as introverted as he is, he's influenced guys like me, who is very outro. Like I'm very on social media. So Sean is very on social media.
yeah,
You're on you know what I'm saying. So the things that have come from Ben have like been, kind of put into us, and then we share that, and then we literally see powerlifting kind of like shape. You know what I mean? Matt, Gary, the OGs that people don't, they don't really get the eyes or the appreciation, but these sort of uh, you call them mentors, you call them just guys that came before us that kind of instill their um, maybe not everything specifically, but maybe they say one thing that really resonates with you and that teaches you like, yo, I should focus on 9 for 9 and leaving some in the tank and securing the win, as opposed to like, oh man, like yeah, I went 9 for 9, but I didn't max out on everything. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
you learn discipline and all those things. So in regards to competition, You kind of touched on this, and I kind of think I know where your head is at. But do like people are saying like move up to 83, move up to 83. In your as of right now, uh, do you want to move up to 83 right now, or do you feel like you can be a 10-time champ at 74 and you can kind of push that class to a place that is just when you're done with 74, you're like, dog, I rode that thing till the end.
It's a good question, man. So I don't think that I'm ever gonna move to 83 anytime soon. One because I just I don't feel healthy at any at even above 170. Like 170, I'm eating so much food that I just feel like shit.
I can relate.
That's one. And then two, um, I am making crazy progress still in 74s. If I was kind of stagnant and I was making maybe 2.5, 5 kg PRs here and there, and I kind of just stagnated a little bit, I would maybe contemplate moving up. But because I'm still making progress as a 74 and I still have muscle mass to gain because like I can water load. I'm at 166, 67 pounds. Like
Mhm.
I still have muscle to put on my frame, as crazy as that sounds. Uh, I yeah, I just don't see myself moving to 83s. And not that I am afraid of Russ or Brett. It's just I just don't feel healthy at 83. Um, and I like the way that my body looks
Mhm.
at 166, 167.
Really good answer. You know, I will tell. I don't know if I've really shared this with people, but when so with John, we won two or three nationals, 2015, 16, 17. Yep, and then he did no two nationals, and then I think he did worlds, and then after that, he decided to go to USPA, and I remember telling Tina, uh, everyone has different goals, right? Some people, in my opinion, and I've shared this with probably Russ and my brother. I want to win like 10 nationals with flex. I want Russ to win a million nationals.
Yeah.
I would just you want to create legacy, right? We had a conversation about legacy, and I remember talking to Russ about worlds, and I was like, I know that at first he was initially like, I don't want to do worlds if it's in like a weird place. And then he was like, you know what? I want legacy. I want to look back and be like, I won it X amount of times. I've done this X amount of times. And I think when you look back at your career and this sport is growing, it's evolving, and it's just getting bigger. Sheffield would have changed the game, man. I'm telling you right now. I saw this. I had the little. Like when you could get seats for your parents and they showed the stadium. I was
Yeah.
looking at all the seats that were filled up, and I was like, oh, this is gonna be unlike.
This is
This is
gonna
gonna
be
be.
nuts.
This is gonna be
Yeah.
nuts, right? And plus the money that was coming into it and everything, I was like, this is the direction where we want things to go. And I do have conversations with Pete, and we always talk about like, kind of what pinnacle top meets that we can do to support powerlifting to give young guys like, oh, I want to chase after. It's like when you're young and you play basketball and you're like, well, maybe one day I could go to the NBA. I know obviously we don't have an NBA, but we can have a Sheffield where you can really make an impact on the sport. Who knows? Maybe one day the World Games includes Raw. I don't know. I think that would be awesome and get a lot of eyes on it. But I mean, it's not up to me; it's up to the higher ups. Um, but anyway, I was just kind of like, John wanted to be the lift the most weight ever, regardless of tested or untested, as opposed to someone like me who wanted to create a dynasty, or create a legacy, create kind of what you're doing now. So for Russ to kind of give me his answer and tell me like, yo, I want legacy, I wanna defend the throne, da 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 da, that was like such a good thing to hear because that's what I think holds a ton of value. If you look at the Patriots, you look at the Lakers have it numerous times in their history, just kind of creating that legacy. I think it's it's one thing to win it once, but to consistently do it and show up and compete. I mean, That's super special to me. Um, so hearing your answer, I totally get it. And also, I mean, I thought of a bunch of reasons why it didn't make sense for you to move up. Like just one, I mean, if you just want to talk about Sheffield, like if you're just talking strictly about money, um, I think you were gonna walk away with some cash at 74, and going to 83, it's like why would you when there's like 10K on the line for one lift? It's like why would you give other lifters an opportunity to take that from you when you have it there? Granted, Sheffield's a little weird. Like you could like not weigh in if you didn't want to get better points or something, but um, so there's like financial incentive, but that's probably not even on. You probably didn't even care about that. I still feel like you have, like you said, I think that's the main thing. You're still making really good progress, like stupid
Mhm.
progress. In that at 74. I know that nationals was kind of weird, right? You said you didn't get to PR anything there, but it's not like you didn't get stronger. You had to like taper early. You have to like be careful.
Right.
I know what it's like you have to drop everything. Um, so that's a really good answer. And yeah, I mean, I know you're a competitor. There was not an instance or any thought in my mind that, oh, he's scared to move up. No, I mean, uh, 84s, we have our own. I've created like. Sean was with me for like 4.5 years, and now he's doing his own thing. And I've created this little like monster that's like, gonna keep me and Russ on our toes. You know what I mean? He's doing his
Right.
own. He's
Right.
doing good, and we got our own. Delaney's doing really good. Gruden, whenever he's not
Yeah.
in football season, is good. And it's like 84s is a little. We have our own stuff going on, and I think you can totally, um, you know, do historic things at 74. Um, so next question. That was a really good answer and kind of exchange, by the way. What hobbies did you have to give up to it says become champion. So yeah, I guess what have you had what hobbies or extracurricular activities have you had to give up to what sacrifices did you make to compete at powerlifting at the level that you have, or do you feel like it kind of fits into your life well and you haven't really had to give up much?
That's a good question. So for those that don't know, I am married, so
Hmm.
uh, I sacrifice time with her. I sacrifice going on trips. I sacrifice family time with my actual family, with going home because I live in New York. I sacrifice friend time,
Yeah.
um, going out, enjoying myself. And not saying that I don't do that, but there's times where I literally have to say, guys, I can't eat out, or I'm not going to eat out because I'm tempted to eat and I have to make weight in 2 weeks. Or I want to go out and drink and have a good time, but I have a competition and I can't screw up my training day the next day. Um, so there's a ton of sacrifice that is being made, and right now I'm actually doing my master's, so I was sacrificing sleep to make sure that everything is getting completed that I need to get done. So there's always give and take. So yeah, I've sacrificed a lot over the years. I'm still sacrificing to this day, but it's priority. It's not even a question. It's just a matter of how.
I love that. You just yeah, it's just get it done. It's like when people say, do you have to find the motivation to train? And it's like I'm not motivated to train sometimes, but I'm never gonna not train. You know what I mean? Like will you ever not train? Like all this that you've built, all the time you've invested into your body, are you ever just gonna not, even for health purposes? It's like I'm sure Taylor Atwood doesn't have issues, with, oh man, I don't feel like going to the gym today, let me just stay home.
All right, so I think so. Let me tell you this. I will say that there's been a few times, more than once, more than twice, more than a handful of times, where I have literally walked into the gym, started my warm up routine, and just been like, "Fuck this, I'm out."
I did that
and
one time, but I went back. I did it the next day.
that's dead serious. And I've never once have told myself, "Damn, I wish I didn't do that." Now there have been times where I have missed a day just because I was feeling lazy and I didn't feel like going to the gym. Where I was like, "Fuck, I should have went to the gym."
Hmm.
So there's a difference because when I walked out of that gym,
You needed
it's
it.
because I was either tired, I was overtrained, and I was truly listening to my body. And I'm very in tune with my body. So at this point, like if I truly feel like, you know what, if I am going to continue with this training session, my risk of injury is a lot higher than if I just say, hey, let me take a rest day today again and come in tomorrow and hit it. And
Yeah.
I've done that numerous times.
I totally agree with that. The older I get, I'm more like, if my outside factors have put me in a terrible position to train and I have a big lower body session, I'm gonna just do it the next day. I'm gonna be smart about it. You know what I mean? When you said
Mm-hmm.
you're very in tune with your body, I think that that is something that um, it's very hard. Like, you need to be kind of self-aware to get that, but it's something that a lot of great lifters have. You need to, like,
Mm-hmm.
yes, you have a program, but within that program you also have like a lot of different variables that are going to be fluctuating up or down. You know what I mean? And
Yep.
if all these things are saying you're going to have a bad training session and you literally feel it as you're warming up, I mean, it's rare that that happens, but like for me, it's like sleep. If I don't sleep and I have a lot of stuff to do, I will push it a day and make sure that I get my sleep before I can do it. Sometimes I can't do that, and you're just gonna have to like eat it. Obviously, meat prep is a little bit different. But the one time I went to the gym, I got my stuff. I was at zoo. I believe it was leading into nationals. It might have been the Arnold. And I showed up on a Monday to hit a workout. It was like 2 or 3 weeks out, and it was so packed in there. And I was like, I literally don't have the time to wait for a rack. I have to be productive, so I left. And I ended up doing it. I combined it and made it work the next day. But like, I don't necessarily look forward to training here in the garage when I have no one there to hype me up and I have to lift heavy and I have
Yep.
no spot and it's just me and Tina and I got to be careful because I don't want to squish the dog, right? So it's tough, man. But it's just like, dude, you played football, you dealt with worse. You know what I mean?
Oh
Like,
yeah.
you know
Oh
what I'm
yeah.
saying? Like, we had those days, those summer 2 days, and there's so much worse that we've gone through. So I feel like no one is gonna get to your level if motivation is a concern. I don't think it's possible. Like, if you cannot execute the plan, especially when you're close to comp, and I mean, listening to your body is part of it. But if you're not staying disciplined, yeah, you probably eat enough protein. You probably get enough sleep for you to function. You probably drink enough water and do all these things. If you're not doing those things, then being a Taylor Atwood is just probably not in the cards for you, especially if you're not as I mean, I'm not taking away from you at all, saying you're gifted, but you do need to have some level of gifts. You do absolutely, and you have to have all the other things in order to
Oh
be
yeah. Oh
six-time
yeah.
national champion. All that. It's not just I mean, there's a lot of super gifted lifters that they just don't get it done when it shows up. They're super strong, but I mean, there's other factors that go into it. It's not just genetics.
Yeah. And I think this is the most top, highly requested question is my height, right? And
Yeah.
I'm 5'6" for everyone
Yeah.
asking. But to ask me my height is disrespectful in my opinion. Not because I am
Like,
self
yeah, yeah,
conscious
yeah, yeah.
or I'm a Napoleon as
Mhm.
they say. Uh, or you can make fun of my height all you want, say I'm short, whatever. Like that doesn't
I
bother
don't
me. I'm
even
a
think of
very
your height when I think of you. The only
yeah
time it comes
right
up
like
is because people bring it up.
yeah
It's an
and
equalizer, right? They try to go, oh well, he's 5'6".
right
You know what I mean?
right and like I said, it's a disrespect thing from that perspective because once you ask my height, it's like, oh, that's the only reason you can lift that much weight.
Oh man,
It's not
yeah.
because you just asked me, well, what does your training schedule look like? What do you do outside the gym for recovery? What are you doing to track the metrics to make sure that you're ready for every session? What does your program actually look like from an analytical standpoint? How do you program? And there's just so many other aspects to lifting other than just my height. Are my leverages beneficial for powerlifting? Yes. I
Um,
didn't choose, but I didn't choose basketball.
I,
right?
I,
Like
I,
I'm not
I
going into
think there are people
basketball
that
saying,
definitely have better leverages than you for some lifts. But
yeah, deadlift, for
I also
example.
say that muscle trumps everything. In my opinion, muscle trumps
Yeah,
everything.
no, no, that's thank you. Yes, you clarified that for sure. My leverages for deadlift are shit. So when people even say that I lift sumo, it's like, dude, my arms,
Yeah,
I shouldn't even be able
I
to
was gonna
fucking
say
lift
that.
this weight. So like you look at Eric Lapointe, his arms, he's
They don't touch his
literally
knees.
pulling, yeah,
They don't
he's
touch it.
pulling the bar like 4 inches. Like,
Yeah,
but you don't say anything about that.
yeah.
Um, so it's all right. I digress. So I'm 5'6", but when you ask me that question, the underlying kind of what you're implying to me is the only reason you're able to lift that weight is because of my height, and that's the only reason why I hate when people ask me how tall are you. Not because I'm one of the most confident guys I think that you can think of. I don't lack confidence. I'm a very confident guy. But when it comes to that in particular
Mm-hmm.
question, the underlying theme is always that's the only reason you can lift that much
Fun
weight.
fact. I don't know what this means, but you, Russ, and Keiko are all 5'6", and you guys do get the height thing a lot. And like I've dealt with this many times with Keiko, and I've told them I don't know what it is about Keiko. Maybe Russ has got so many comments I just don't see it. But with Keiko, it's like they're aggressively like, bro, you're probably dumb short to be like deadlifting that much, and I'm like, it's just a normal, stupid kind of like guy macho thing where they need to like justify their lack of ability to do that when they don't. Dude, it's like when you go to the gym and you're like, I'm just benching at a commercial gym, and a guy makes a comment on it, and I'm like, well, I'm pretty sure that if you structured your training and focused on it, you could probably bench this too. You might even beat me. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So, it's just ignorance, and I totally get where you're saying and where you're coming from. Um, Random question here from a youngin. Do you remember your numbers around age 19, 20, or were you even messing with powerlifts at that time?
No, again, I didn't get into powerlifting until I was like 24, 25, maybe. No, probably even 26. Jesus. Um, so I don't remember what my like squat bench deadlift numbers were,
Mm-hmm.
but I was still very strong.
Mm-hmm.
My like again, I was strong for football. So I wasn't probably hitting depth like USAPL depth because we didn't have to. There
Yeah,
wasn't
we
a need
didn't. That
for
wasn't
that.
even a. That was not even like literally not. No one even cared
No,
about that until
yeah, no one
powerlifting.
cared about depth until powerlifting. Exactly. So I'm not even gonna say what my numbers were because it doesn't. It's not. It's an apples to orange compare. Um, but for bench, I've always had an impressive bench. Uh, I think I weighed at the time like 195. I was thick. Um, I weighed 195, almost 200 pounds. I injured my ankle and I put on a lot of weight, but I was continuing to lift, and I think I benched like 450 something. And I mean that at the
It's a
time that
lot.
was that was a lot. Now it's kind of like I hit that at 166,
That's still good. That's
167.
still really good. That's still nuts. So I'm gonna kind of ask you a little bit about training macros, and then we're gonna leave off with something valuable for the kids.
Cool.
Um, so first thing is, do you know your macros and how much cardio do you do to maintain your
Zero
body?
cardio. Yeah. So first and foremost, zero cardio. Reason being is because cardio is a killer for strength.
It's like literally the
Uh,
opposite of what we're
it's
doing.
the opposite of what you're trying to achieve when you're in strength sports. So stay away from cardio, my friends. Um, and then my macros, they vary, but I will say, like I don't have a very fast metabolism, so it doesn't take a lot for my maintenance or even to be in a surplus.
Hmm.
I'll probably say around 23 to 2500 is my surplus. And then like my maintenance calories are anywhere from 2000 to 2300. And then my cutting calories, if I need to lose just like a few lbs. I'll probably be around like 17 to 2000
And people
calories.
might be shocked at that, but I mean, I talk to Bert all the time, and he's just like, hey man, some people it's just gonna be a different number for them, and in society, like when you're social, if you order one thing, if you get just like one entree from like Cheesecake Factory, that's gonna be damn near your
Yeah,
whole daily fucking maintenance right there.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
So it's just making the right choices and staying on top of it, and you probably don't have a desire to overeat when you feel healthy and you know that you're fueling your body
exactly,
correctly. Um,
exactly.
so what is your training split Monday through Friday or Monday through Sunday, I believe, like leading into this last competition?
It's a good question.
Not the taper week. Let's talk like normal.
Yeah, yeah. I'll tell you right now. Um,
And yeah, and then I got a warm up question, and then.
yeah. So I was hitting 4 days of training.
Hmm.
Uh, I was hitting back squat and bench press on one day, deadlift bench press on another day, squat bench press on the third day, and then an SBD day.
So four
Um,
bench was that two deadlift, two squat?
1, 2, 3. Yeah, four bench and three back squat, two dead.
That is obviously there's going to be days that are harder than others. There's not everyone is going to be able to do RPE 8 on all those days because they'll die. But that is there was something that you said earlier. Oh yes, the taper. You said something about hitting the 775 4 days after. And
Yeah,
I will say for some lifters, uh, depending on how you taper and what your frequency is, you're gonna maintain that level of fitness for a little bit after the meet. Like you're not just gonna, like there's been
drop
times
down.
where I've competed and then I hit like a freaking crazy rep PR, that a couple days after. And then there's some people they're gonna compete and they're just zapped. They're just gone. They got nothing. Like big boys that they barely trained and they did.
Yes, big
Yeah.
boys are different for
Yeah,
sure.
so some people, everyone's gonna be a little bit different. So if you guys are hearing this and you hear his frequency, I know you guys want to know that, but I promise you, if you just go try to do that, and it's not done right, you're gonna die.
Yeah, yeah,
you,
yeah. I don't. So that's just for reference, and that's from
yes,
me,
yes.
right? That like don't copy that. Don't try to take that and run with it. I'm not giving my rep scheme. I'm not
Hmm.
giving you my total tonnage or volume for
Yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
week. So that is just my frequency of how much I bench, squat, and deadlifted. So that's it.
Yeah. And then what kind of warm up do you do, if any at all, before you actually get to a bar?
Yeah, hell yeah. You got to warm up.
Yeah.
um, it's a very dynamic warm up. So I'm just making sure that I'm just getting my upper my body
Temperature.
temperature
Yeah.
up, and also just allowing my muscles to kind of get loose with my joints, my hips, and making sure that as soon as I step under a bar or I grab a bar, I'm fully ready to go.
You sit all day, like
Well, I
at
have a
work?
standing desk,
Okay.
but yeah, I have a sitting desk. I have a sitting job.
Yeah, I when I get down to training, my hips are locked and I gotta open them up. So I'm on the
Yeah.
stationary bike, and I know people don't like it, but I personally, for me, I do some static stretches like that we used to do back in football just because it helps me, and it protects my when I had really bad knee tendonitis years ago. I learned some stretches at physical therapy that just helped me kind of open up my upper thigh, which affects my by my knee as well, and
Okay.
stuff like that. And then I do a lot of stuff with the bar, just the bar. Um, like I'll squat and I'll pause it and I'll just make sure that I can like move a little in each direction, make sure that I don't snap anything if I'm going up. But so you do dynamic stuff. I don't know if you guys have seen Russ warm up, but he literally does like the ladders. It's like basically the
Yeah.
the ladders running up and down. But yeah, the point of a warm up is to raise your body temperature and make sure that when you get under the bar, you can move through the space that you need to in a powerlifting sense, to hit depth on squat. I'm not gonna lie on bench. I just lay down. Bench. You shouldn't do that, but that's what I do sometimes. And deadlift, I will not even try to deadlift unless I'm warmed up because I got that cat back action. Um, you know how it is. So, okay. So someone said, do you use a 13 or 10 millimeter belt?
13.
And why do you run with mixed over hook grip?
My thumbs are pussies.
Same. So almost done. What is the biggest powerlifting injury that you dealt with, and how did you fix it?
Great question.
Yeah.
So I injured my back in 2015, my L5S1,
Same.
my SI joint, and uh, I was probably injured for a year and a half. I worked with Quinn Hinnick, Dr. Quinn Hinnick of Juggernaut, or prior Juggernaut. I don't know what it is today, but um, yeah, he helped me. And what is absolutely insane is we did everything virtually, so it was all done through the webcam, and he didn't put a hand on me, um, and we did breathing exercises.
Bro,
So breathing exercises which help decompress my spine and kind of put if I had a bulging disc, maybe I never got an MRI, but he helped me um, get better, and it took like a year and a half, but I got back to full health.
I kind of want to touch on that real quickly. So when you do slip a disc, this is what I tell people, right? If you hurt your back, it's going to be either say the muscular, some sort of structural thing, right? Or you slip a disc. If you get an MRI, they're going to show that there's something weird because we're powerlifters, right? So the key is going to be to create some kind of decompression. And then, obviously don't do the thing that is causing you pain. And you guys found a way to do it. Staying hydrated, there's a lot of different stuff. Me personally, I found a Cairo with the traction table and I have an inversion table, and like I remember being jacked up for 2 months. I couldn't even do anything with lower body. I had the worst sciatic pain. I had to drop out of school because I couldn't sit in the chair. I couldn't sit in the chair. I had to. It was so bad. And then once I started decompressing, within 2 weeks I saw relief, and then I moved on. And the epitome that I had was like all these people. As soon as they get hurt, they're like, "Oh, I gotta go to the doctor and get an MRI." And it's like the doctor's just gonna tell you stop lifting. You know what I mean? Unless you get a
Right.
good one. But the solution, regardless, is going to be it's like rest, decompression, and then making sure that that area is reinforced. So building strength, obviously, so that way it doesn't happen in the future. So yeah, if you come back from a back injury like that, you can pretty much come back from anything. Last thing is, what would you say is the key to staying at a high level after all these years? So, what has helped you operate at the highest levels of competition in a powerlifting sense over the years that you feel perhaps others could take from and apply to themselves?
That's a great question. I so
Like, what does Taylor Atwood have that has helped him? You can name a couple things, like kind of just
yeah,
operate at
yeah.
this frequency.
So I think the things that you can control, right? Meaning nutrition, sleep, getting a coach that knows what the hell they're doing, um, and actually specifically programming for you, not some cookie cutter program. Um, but also, I think I'm going to say it again: nutrition and sleep and hydration. All those things help you perform better the next day. And also having a coach that is able to um, kind of navigate through what they think is enough stimulus to get you stronger carefully. Because anyone can get you stronger, but can they do it safely, and can they get you to the platform uh, and actually perform and peak correctly? So that's those are kind of the ingredients I would say are the necessity to perform well on game day, and something that you can control. Um, and if that's nutrition and you're going to cut weight via water load, that is being knowledgeable about how to do it properly, and then how to properly rehydrate and refuel after. Because a lot of people do it but don't do it correctly, and then their performance suffers. So again, make sure that you're able to control everything that you can, which is hydration, nutrition, coaching, sleep.
Boom. There you go. Uh, there was one more thing that I wanted to ask. What do you think for someone that is like they want to compete? Like there's one lifter I don't want to put him on blast, but there's one lifter I'm thinking of. He wants to compete. He just he literally says I literally don't like competing and it's stressful for me. What would you say to those people? I have an answer, but I want to hear from you. What would you say to people that they want to compete, they actually are strong, they can, they can make prime time, but they get nervous when they're in that situation. What would you say to those people?
You just have to do it. You just have to do it. You can't be afraid. What is holding you back is you're afraid of failure, deep down, right? Because it's something you've probably never experienced before, so it's out of your wheelhouse, and you just don't want to fail. What you have to get over is that fear of the failure, because one, you don't even know if you're going to fail because you haven't ever done it before, and then two, you just have to do it because you have to experience it. The more experience you have, the easier it's going to be later on down the line. Like when I first, of course, like I am an exception, but I've when I first competed in a meet, I was a natural just because I've had experience previous to that. So what you're seeing me now is the culmination of years of practice. So when you see me, like, how are you so laser focused?
Hmm.
How are you so calm and collected on game day and so on and so forth? That's years of practice. Granted, I think I do it probably better than most,
Hmm.
and I'm just saying
Dude,
that
you
just
can
because,
say it and
but
it's not bragging. Like you've done enough.
like
We get it.
yeah, I think it's just there is some natural ability there, but it's also just going out and doing it, and not being afraid to fail. And that's in life in general. Like if you're afraid to do something, it's because you're not comfortable with being uncomfortable, and you have to go out and just attack whatever it is that you're feeling uncomfortable about.
There you have it, folks. Taylor Atwood for you, man. Thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. I'll have your link to your IG and everything down below. Um, and yeah, man. We'll say bye, and then I'll cut it, and then we'll take a quick picture, and that'll be it. So later, everyone.
Dope.